traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. Your next stop,
the Federal Reserve Bank Zone.
Okay, no more opening statements, so we'll go on and introduce our witnesses. First, we have Mr. Scott Alvarez as General Counsel at the Board of Governors, a post he has held since 2004. He has been with the board for 30 years. And also, Mr. Thomas Baxter, Jr. has been General Counsel and Executive Vice President of the legal group at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York since 1995. He also serves as Deputy General Counsel of the FOMC. Mr. Baxter has been with the New York Fed for more than 30 years. Without objection, your written statements will be made a part of the record. It has been agreed upon by the witnesses, Ranking Member Clay and myself, that Mr. Alvarez will deliver the oral remarks for the joint written testimony of Mr. Alvarez and Mr. Baxter. This testimony may run longer than the customary 5 minutes. And I yield now to Mr. Alvarez.
Chairman Paul, Ranking Member Clay, members of the subcommittee, Thomas Baxter, the General Counsel of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the ways the Federal Reserve informs the Congress and the American people about its policies and actions. Central bank lending facilitates the implementation of monetary policy and allows the central bank to address short-term liquidity pressures in the banking system. This role of lender of last resort is a critical one, long filled by central banks around the world, especially during times of economic crisis, when discount window lending can mitigate strains in financial markets that could otherwise escalate and lead to sharp declines in output and employment. In the United States, all discount window loans are fully secured, and the Federal Reserve has not suffered a loss to date on its discount window lending. The Federal Reserve regularly releases significant, detailed information about its operations in order to promote the understanding of how the Federal Reserve fosters financial stability and economic stability, and to facilitate an evaluation of our actions while preserving the ability to effectively fulfill the responsibilities that Congress has given the Federal Reserve. Since 1914, the Federal Reserve has published its balance sheet every week. We also publish full financial statements annually that are audited by an independent public accounting firm, which for the last 4 years has been Deloitte & Touche. These audits cover Maiden Lane 2, and Maiden Lane 3, as well as the transactions conducted through the discount window and with foreign central banks. The Federal Reserve also publishes a special monthly report to Congress, posted on our website, that details the Federal Reserve's emergency lending programs, including providing information on the amount of lending under each program, the type and level of collateral associated with those loans, and information about the borrowers under those facilities. In addition, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York maintains a website that includes schedules of purchases and sales of securities as part of open market operations, with QSIP information describing the securities involved. The Federal Reserve is fully cooperating with the GAO in an extensive review of each of the special lending facilities developed during the crisis. This review will assess operational integrity, internal controls, security and collateral policies, policies governing third-party contractors, and the existence of any conflicts of interest or inappropriate favoritism in the establishment or operation of the facilities. As provided by the Dodd-Frank Act, on December 1st, 2010, the board published detailed information on its website about the Federal Reserve's actions during the financial crisis. This release includes the names of borrowers, the amount borrowed, the date credit was extended, the interest rate charged, information about collateral, and a description of the credit terms under each facility. Similar information was provided for the draws of foreign central banks on their dollar liquidity swap lines with the Federal Reserve. For agency MBS transactions, details included the name of the counterparty, the security purchased or sold, and the date, amount, and price of the transaction. On March 31st, 2011, the Federal Reserve released documents related to the discount window in response to requests filed under the Freedom of Information Act. The March 31st release included documents containing information related to borrowers at the discount window between August 8th, 2007 and March 1st, 2010 that was not required to be disclosed under the Dodd-Frank Act. Going forward, the Dodd-Frank Act provides for the release of information on any broad-based emergency lending facility 1 year after the termination of the facility, as well as a GAO audit of the facility. The Act also provides for the release of information regarding discount window lending and open market operations conducted after July 21st, 2010, with a 2-year lag. For lending facilities, including both emergency lending facilities and the discount window, and for open market operations, the Federal Reserve will publish information disclosing the identity of the borrower or counterparty, transaction amount, interest rate or discount paid, and the collateral pledged. The Federal Reserve believes the lags provided by the Dodd-Frank Act for the release of transaction-level information establish an important balance between the public's interest in information about participants in transactions with the Federal Reserve and the need to ensure that the system can effectively use its congressionally authorized power to maintain the stability of the financial system and implement monetary policy. We will carefully monitor developments in the use of the discount window and other Federal Reserve facilities and keep the Congress informed about their effectiveness. The Federal Reserve has worked and will continue to work with the Congress to ensure that our operations promote the highest standards of accountability, stewardship, and policy effectiveness consistent with meeting our statutory responsibilities. We appreciate the opportunity to describe the Federal Reserve's efforts on this important subject and are happy to answer any questions you may have, and we will be responsive to any written questions you may submit as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the gentleman. I will yield myself 5 minutes, but announce that we will likely be able to have repeat questioning. I think the time will permit that, but I will start off with the 5 minutes. I first want to ask unanimous consent to admit an article for the record from Bloomberg called Fed Gave Banks Crisis Gains on $80 billion secretive loans without objection. I want to refer to one document, and this little document from the material that we got from the Federal Reserve is called a chart pack of market monitoring metrics for Fed facilities. And I'm sure you know all 29,000 pages, and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But it tells you about the problem that we have in trying to find out information. And this particular document has 327 pages to it. But in this particular document, it had some interesting material that I did not know about, and I want to ask about it. And it reveals that there was a previously undisclosed federal Fed lending program known as the Single Tranche Open Market Operations, and it's referred to as STOMO. And this is something new, and it allows to give 0.01%, that is free money, to companies like Goldman Sachs, and was essentially a free loan to these well-connected businesses. But also the problem that we had in analyzing this to find out information that we're looking for is it turns out that just in this particular area, 81% of the contents has been redacted. So we end up with a lot of pages, and then we end up with 19% actually has information that we have to sort out. The question is why were these details, not mentioned? Is it that everything has to be done in secret? We'd like to know, the people would like to know, but we didn't see any evidence until this was dug out of here, and maybe it was mistakenly not redacted or something like that. It makes us wonder why we don't know about this. And that, of course, is one of my big beefs with the Federal Reserve, is that central bank wields so much power, so much financial power. You literally can have transactions greater than what we can do with our own budget. And that's why it's a deep concern to me, but to many other people as well. But why was this not published? And are these and other programs that have yet to be disclosed, are there others? Why were so many pages redacted? can you really claim this to be in compliance with FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act, when we don't know what's been excluded? And I would like to get your reaction from this and talk specifically about this one program and what's been going on with it.
So, Mr. Chairman, the program you refer to, the single tranche OMO program, was not a secret program. It was actually publicly announced by the Federal Reserve on March 7th, 2008, when the program began. It was a short-term program that ended in January of 2009, and transactions that were conducted under that program, it was part of our open market operations, were reported along with other open market operations on the New York Federal Reserve Bank website very quickly after the transactions occurred. The documents you have before you are from the response for the Freedom of Information Act request, and so that itself should explain why there are redactions. The way the Freedom of Information Act works, it is a request for certain types of information in documents. So redactions are made. First, the agency collects all documents that may have any information that relates to the request. Then information that is not requested is taken out of the documents, redacted from the documents, simply because it's not responsive to the request. So it's not a desire to keep things secret, it's instead a desire to be responsive to the requests. There often, when a requester asks for documents, there often is information that is extraneous or not the kind of information that was requested, not relevant to the request, and that's taken out of the documentation. And that's why you see so much redaction in the documents before you. These documents were reviewed by the court and released by the court in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act.
Does that mean if somebody would follow up and broaden that request, that all that material could become available? Would they have to just change the Freedom of Information Act request?
So if another request were made for a broader range of information, we would review that information, determine what is confidential and what could be released, and a decision then would be made on that request.
Can it be made so broad that just turn over everything?
I'm not sure there are enough people in the world to look at everything we have to turn over everything, but we would do the best we could.
Okay, my 5 minutes is up, and I now yield to Mr. Clay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Alvarez. Just one question.
You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination, that of imagination, that of imagination, that of imagination.